Hey guys, this is Locke. This video is going to be about everything you need to know about the Berserk status effect. This is most commonly used by King Mont. It is his signature skill, his Limit Burst, which has a very high chance of um, inflicting Berserk. That skill is the King of Leonis. As you can see, this is the range that it inflicts on. The AP cost is only 49 compared to other skills like, for example, Niblu's Limit Burst costs 58. So 49 is a lot more doable. And King Mont also starts with quite a high base AP. So it's quite easy to start using the skill. Now, let me explain what the Berserk effect does, and then I'll actually talk about many different effects that it does. It doesn't only just cause you to lose control of your unit. There are some other effects going on as well. But first of all, there are three effects that are very similar to Berserk. They are, Berserk, Confusion, and Charm. So the difference is that when a unit gets confused, like for example using Agrace's Limit Burst, when a unit gets confused, it can either auto attack an enemy or a friendly unit. That's all it would do. A unit that's charmed will only attack friendly units. So if my King Mont was charmed, he will attack the other units on my team. And it's not only limited to auto attacks, he can also use skills on my friendly units. In addition to that, he might also use different skills. Like, for example, he might buff the enemy if he's not able to attack any of my units. He might just use like the Nightblade missile resist, pierce resist buffed on nearby, well, enemies to me. So if you charm me with the Kiza, for example, and he doesn't have anyone else close by, he might use a buff on Kiza. So that's what Charm does. Now, both Charm and Confusion, you can auto hit or use a skill to attack somebody and remove the status effect from them, but you cannot do that with Berserk. All three of these units remove the ability for you to control your unit until that status effect is gone. Now I'm actually going to talk about some of the nuances with the Berserk effect. So the easiest way for me to show you is with an example. So I have King Mont, and then I have 9S and 2B. I'm actually going to be using just 9S. 2B is there just to explain a little bit more about how you can. It's one way to avoid the Berserk effect is to give the immunity to it, but she's not really important for what I'm doing here. So I hope 9S doesn't reflex my my skill, because that would kind of suck. But here, take a look at how much damage 9S would do. So 9S would do about 1,000 damage to this opponent, and if he's under the Berserk effect, he will still auto attack, and you can see the the effect that Berserk has on him. So I'm just gonna stop. Oops, he wasn't supposed to go there. Okay, so take a look and see how much damage King Mont will do to my 9S. So right now he does 636 damage with an auto hit, and with a skill I'm going to use Claws of the Young Lion. He does 1,831 damage on 9S. Now hopefully he doesn't reflex this. Perfect. Now take a look. I'm going to get back to 2B in a second. But you can see there, he does about almost 2,000 damage. Now that was a crit. So if he had landed a crit before he was berserked, it would have been about 1,300 damage. So 1,300 to 2,000, that would be about an increase of 50%. It was like 1,300 something. So it's basically his auto attack damage goes up by 50% when he is in the berserk kind of state. The damage that he takes is increased by about 50%. If you remember, before he was getting about 600 something damage, now he's getting 954, almost 50% more damage. Now let's take a look at the Claws of the Young Lion to see how much damage that would do. And that also increased by about 50%. It was like 1,800 something before, now it's 2,700, which is again about 50% more damage that he's taking now. So 2B is a great unit to use as a counter to the Berserk status effect. However, you have to use it before your unit gets berserked. This skill, Resistance Field, gives you immunity to immobilize, disable, and berserk. But if you use it after your unit is already in the Berserk status, it doesn't have any effect. It would just prevent him from being Berserked in the future. So you have to make sure that you use that skill before before your unit gets Berserked, basically. That is how this works. Yep, I'm gonna finish the stage, and then I'm gonna talk about some other things around Berserk. There are only a few units in the game, especially UR units in the game, that have a natural resistance to Berserk. There's only 3 URs actually, and those 3 are Lucia, which I'm gonna go and talk about. So Lucia has a 50% resistance to Berserk. The next one is Eileen, who also has a 50% resistance to Berserk. And last but not least is actually Frivia. Actually, maybe she is the least because she only has a 10% resistance to Berserk. So that's too bad. But uh, if uh, if you have like the Berserk status effect is actually a very high chance from his LB. So if you have like a 97 faith and you're attacking somebody with 50 faith, I think you still have about like a 90 plus chance to berserk somebody, because that is it's just the multiplier on the skill is very high. So even with like say with like a 10% resistance, you still probably have a huge chance to land berserk on Frivia. With a 50% resistance to it, you don't have much of a chance. I think it's about like 16% or something, so it's actually quite low. Um, but you are limited to only a couple units having that, and of course you can also use 2B with her resistance field buff to apply the berserk resistance to other units. Actually, not resistance, immunity to other units, including herself. So that is one way of tackling this. But there are quite a few of these MRs and one SR that have berserk resistance. I'm just going to mention them. I'm not going to go show you all of them. But they are Gefgarion, Wistrel, O, Mary Luke, Seymour, Etra, Kadia, Loralee, and finally Vadim. Vadim is the SR that has 50% berserk resistance. And all the units I mentioned, they don't have 50% berserk resistance. Some of them have a bit lower. But I think the notable one that I'm seeing a lot of right now is Seymour, who has a berserk resistance of 40. There you go. And he also has a charm resistance of 50 as well. So I think he's quite useful. He's only a cost of 50. Some of the other MRs are cost 60. So I have been seeing him a lot, especially in the class match that's going on. And he has very high attack with this EX job being released. So I can see a lot of people using him, especially as a King Mont counter. And that he also has a good resistance to charm makes him just a good pick overall in a lot of these class match type scenarios. Um, so that's all really I have to say about Berserk. I actually didn't know about the increased damage and increased auto attack damage that you would do and the increased damage that you would take in return. I didn't know about that effect until I looked more into it. So maybe not everybody knew about it, so I thought I would get this information out. And you can probably think of like some niche tactics that you can use with this, especially in like manual PvP, because maybe it might be advantageous to use Berserk on one of your enemies and one of your units that also doesn't have like any AP, so you can do a lot more damage with your normal attack and kill that unit basically, right? So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. Let me know what you guys think, and if you have found other niche things with Berserk that I didn't mention or other units that I missed, let me know as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care, guys.